It's been roughly 1 week since Jennifer McKelvie took the reins as interim mayor of Toronto following the sudden resignation of John Tory. And joining us now live to discuss how the city is running since moving into her new office space is Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvie. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
First off, how is the transition going now that you have moved officially into the mayor's office?
Well, I think it's going as smooth as humanly possible. I will say that I'm very fortunate that all the wonderful staff that work in the mayor's office have stayed on to help with this transition. And it's been a real delight to get to know all of them and to work for the people of Toronto.
All right. And since you stepped in over the course of this week, we have recently found out that the by-election, we have a date now. It is set in stone. And we are still moving, though, towards getting that vacancy officially declared in the mayor's office itself. And at this point, there is no plan to try to accelerate a city council meeting to have this done quicker.
So the city clerk has been clear that he needs time to hire all of the staff that are going to be needed for the election and to find all the polling stations and book those. This will be the single largest by-election that has ever been held in Canada. And if we were to declare the seat vacant, it doesn't accelerate any of those timelines. So we are moving forward with March 29th for that meeting of council.
Okay. Has there been something that has been tougher than you expected during this transition so far? I know it's only been a week, it's early, but are you finding that taking the reins is a little bit more difficult in one aspect over another?
Well, I think we all know that my predecessor, Mayor Tory, used to get up very, very early and do all these morning shows, not something I'm very used to. So I have adjusted, I think, to getting up much earlier in the morning. But just also just the sheer scope of the issues that you need to be on top of as mayor. And I'm very fortunate that the police chief, who I had only met for the first time last week, has been great in keeping me up to speed on what's going on. I had worked previously with the CEO of TTC. He's also been fantastic. And really, it's about department by department across the city, and agencies across the city, and really meeting all those key stakeholders. And they've all been very, very great at briefing me and getting me ready for the next 4 months.
One of those issues that's come up this week, especially as well as last week with the snow, is snow clearing here in the city. Councillor Josh Matlow saying that the standards need to be brought up in order to clear both main streets and side streets faster. He thinks it's unacceptable how it is being cleared right now, especially considering we've had snow on the ground from last week that still hasn't been cleared in some areas. Is there something that you will be doing as deputy mayor during your reign for the rest of this winter in order to make any adjustments to snow clearing in the city?
Well, I'll work closely with transportation services, and I always have done that. We have 5,700 kilometers of roads in the city, 1,400 pieces of equipment that are out there. There are some trouble spots. We all know that, and it's a matter of identifying those, sharing those with the City of Toronto staff. But overall, I think given the size and the scale and the scope of the snow clearing operations, I think we do a great job in the city, and I'd like to thank all the wonderful city staff and all the snowplowers that are out there overnight working really hard to get the roads cleared so we can get to work in the morning.
What do you think about Councillor Matlow suggesting that this is subpar clearing here in the city?
Well, I don't agree with it. I think that our city staff are doing a great job. There is always room for improvement, and like all councillors, we send in areas that we see problems to city staff, and they are quite responsive. So if there are those areas, he should pass those along to city staff, and I'm sure they're willing to have a look at it.
Okay, I'm going to move on to a fatal fire that we had over the weekend. Kingston and Lawrence happened in a Toronto community housing building. One person pronounced dead, 5 other people sent to hospital, and I believe that there is one still in critical condition at this point. This is just one of several serious fires, in some cases fatal fires, in Toronto community housing buildings. What is being done in order to improve the fire safety in these buildings? Not only is it just that these fires are popping up in TCH buildings, but they go fatal a lot more often, at least that we're hearing anecdotally. And it's something that is quite concerning, considering that we've had a few of them over the last few months.
Well, we're in continuous conversations with Toronto Community Housing about that, and having a look at the lessons learned. Certainly, what could be brought forward for improvement. As for the incident on the weekend, it is right next door to my community, so my heart is with all those that have been impacted by the fire. And the deputy fire chief has been keeping me informed that the Ontario Fire Marshal is investigating, Toronto Fire is investigating, Toronto Police are investigating. And certainly it hits close to home when the tragedy is just next door.
Okay, and just to wrap up, we know that you have said last week you will not be running in the by-election to fill the mayor's seat at all. You'll be doing this just on an interim basis. But in the interim, do you have a specific priority that you want to focus on before a new mayor is elected in the summer?
Well, I think it's business as usual. I think if I've done a good job, you don't really notice that I'm here. It means that everything is moving well, that our city services are efficient. It means that we're continuing to build housing, to improve public transit, and to keep our community safe. So that's what I'm focusing on. That's what was laid out in the City of Toronto budget, which really is the framework for the work that has to be done over the next year. And if I can just do one thing, though, in this role, is going to be to try to tell the good stories of Toronto, because there's so many out there and we need to hear more of it.
All right, Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvie, thank you so much for joining us this morning on BT.
Thank you for having me.